without further discussion, we have one of the finest patriotic people. He was on 8 Hours this weekend with Tina Peters talking about her. She wasn't on, she's in jail. But Dr. Frank has been all over the country. Most of the people on here know him. I want to thank him for everything he does in this country. I know he gets a little bit around a little bit more than I do. I have to just stay on TV. So thank you so much for everything you've done. And the floor is all yours.
Well, thank you. Yes, all day Saturday, I was on a letmytinago.us live podcast. It went 8 hours. And what we did on that podcast is we started the day with opening and prayer. And then we kind of went through the timeline of Tina Peters' experience. And of course, since I'm the one at the very beginning of that, he opened with me. And I kind of gave a history of how I met her, how we arranged to get the forensic backups of her machines and all that stuff. We kind of went through all those steps. And then we brought it up to the cyber symposium. And when she joined us there, and, I needed to stay all day long because I was involved in almost every step of her journey. I was at her sentencing hearing. And so they put that video up as well. So that's why we did that. And we're trying to do is bring attention to the fact that she's a patriot and she's in jail, just like the J6ers are patriots and they're in jail. And it doesn't make sense. It's not fair to her. It's a violation of her constitutional rights, as well as we, the people. There are all kinds of issues. Our government is behaving tyrannically towards us. She happens to be in one of the worst places in the country there in Colorado. And so that's why we were bringing attention to it. I didn't organize it. They invited me in, but Mark Cook was the organizer, and he said, "Hey, Doug, I need you back on the next issue ones as well." So I think it's part 1 of 4 parts. letmytinago.us, exactly. And they had a little trouble on Saturday with their technical. Sounds familiar, huh, Steve? And so the audio was a little choppy at the beginning. So if you go to watch and it's still choppy, wait a day or two. I think they're going to fix it and you'll get a good, clean hearing. But anyway, that's what that was all about. And I think that is what inspired you to contact me, Steve, and have me come on today. So I'm glad to be here. I've been doing a lot of work since the election, a lot of work, and people don't understand what happened in the election. And everybody's like, hooray, hooray, Trump won. Absolutely. We're all delighted that he won. And it's delightful watching him with that pen, and his machete basically going through the government and honoring his campaign promises. Dude, the guy is on fire. I love it. But everything he's doing, executive order. Okay. It's everything that, even though it's great to watch and we're all having a great time, the problem is our legislatures, our state legislatures are not on board. I've met with them in person. As I've been all over the country, and our legislators are not on board. I saw Dan Schultz on here a minute ago, and the precinct project is something that I've been promoting as well around the country. We need that sort of grassroots movement from the bottom. We've got Trump coming down with his wrecking ball and his machete, and it's wonderful. He's coming down from the top. But everything that he's doing can just quickly be undone unless we build the infrastructure underneath it. So that's what I've been doing. I'm about to go on tour again. For the last 4 years, I was on the road almost continuously. I don't charge for any of my events. So if you guys want to get me set up, just contact me. My email is drdouglas, DOUGLAS, G like George, Frank, Dr. Douglas G. Frank at outlook.com. And my goal when I come to these counties is I speak in the evenings and they pass a hat and that covers my hotel and plane tickets and things. But what we're really doing is we're building a national infrastructure. And we need to change the way you think about this, okay? Most of the things that people are doing right now to think that they're doing election integrity are impotent. They will have no effect whatsoever. For example, all this talk about how Pennsylvania was saved by Scott Pressler's work, where he was like doing all the registration and ballot harvesting and all that. The numbers are now in. He registered fewer people than the prior 2 elections, okay? And the turnout only barely went up in that state. So all that work barely made an effect. And last March, I'm a mathematician I'm a scientist. I follow the data. In March of 2024, I did the calculation and I publicized it everywhere. And I told everybody, we're not going to win this election by chasing ballots, by doing registration. We're not going to win by cleaning voter rolls. We're not going to win by any of those ways. And I showed with the numbers that the most we'd be able to increase Trump's turnout in 2024 would be 3%. And guess what it was? On the nose, 3%. And I've got graphs for the whole country. I've got discussions of that already out of my YouTube and Rumble channels. The reason when Trump is in office, I mean, besides it being a miracle, thank God it's a miracle, I think we've been given a temporary reprieve. We were lucky that the Democrats didn't turn out their base. The Democrat vote went down in every state in the country, okay? Well, nearly every state. We didn't win the election. Trump didn't win the election. Trump essentially got the same thing he got before. It went up a few percent. The Democrat turnout was way the heck down. And I've got all the graphs to show that. I've got all the data to show you that. And so, in other words, we didn't win the election. We held our own. The Democrats lost the election. And I've graphed all the trends and showed all the situations. We have 1 year to fix this because I think we're going to lose the midterms. I think we're going to lose in 2028 unless we take advantage of this reprieve we have right now. We have got a year before I want to come back to that, the work we did in Philadelphia. I want to talk about that. I don't think that is what you think it is, because right now in the state of Pennsylvania, more than 30 NGOs have access to your voter rolls, and they can put in as many voters as they want, whenever they want, and they can stuff ballots for them whenever they want. So the reason we won in 2024 is because Trump held his own, went up a little bit, but the Democrats were unable to cheat nearly as much as they were before. Also, Kamala couldn't even turn out her own base. So the way I like putting this is we didn't win the election. The Democrats lost it. They didn't have their act together. I've got all the data to back this up. So anybody who's putting their emphasis into cleaning the voter rolls, anybody's putting their emphasis in thinking we're going to increase the turnout, you're barking up the wrong trees, guys. We have to secure our elections. And the only way to secure your elections is for you to take back local control of them, where you can have transparency, you can control the voter rolls. Right now across the country, there isn't a single state. I mean, in every single state, the voter rolls are controlled at a central level. Pennsylvania is one of the worst in the country. We have all the data. We have the logs from your state proving that your NGOs are logging in and adding voters to the voter rolls and then stuffing ballots for them. So you can do all the work you want, but if you don't address that cheat mechanism, we're going to lose. Not to mention the fact that the trends are all against us, and I've graphed all that out as well. We're in huge trouble. We have a narrow window, and you guys are not idiots. Anybody on this call knows what I'm talking about. The elections are decided in the primaries, not the general. Who we get to win the primary matters, and that's a year from now. So we need control of our elections. And so what I've been doing, spending my time, is I've been working with teams around the country. And I'm building infrastructure, and the purpose of the infrastructure is to teach people how to find fraud so that they can take back local control of the elections. Because once you have fraud in your hand, now you have legal leverage, you have court of public opinion leverage, you have all sorts of leverage. I just want, and I don't have a lot of time, but I just wanted to tell you something that we're on right now, really hot. We have now, and we've got a lot of experience now, and I've got teams all over. I mean, think about this. 4 years ago, we didn't know what we were doing. Now I have teams all over the country that are auditing the voter rolls. They're auditing the elections afterwards. They're making sure that every ballot that came in came from who we think it came in, and we're finding all kinds of ballots that are fraudulent in this last election, all over the place. So we've really come a long way. In fact, I just give a short advertisement. Monday night, I'm going to give an hour-long talk on the Cause of America call. I'm going to teach people the principles of auditing your voter rolls. I'm going to teach people how to do that. But in the meantime, I've been doing all around the country. I just want to share something recently that happened. I'm not going to tell you how yet, because we can't reveal some of our sources, but we know how to find out who is a citizen or not in our rolls. And so what we do is we've been taking the rolls and we've been cross-referencing with the citizen list. And guess what? We're finding all sorts of non-citizens that are voting. So, but except that when we then knock on the door of the non-citizen, they didn't vote. Somebody used their name to stuff a ballot. Okay. So that's like easy to do in Pennsylvania because the NGOs all have access to your voter rolls. So we have lots of ways of doing this audit. This is the way we can prove that we're not just a bunch of blowhards, that we're not just screaming bloody murder and saying, oh, we want our elections back. No. We can show that the actual fraud is actually happening. And then once you have that, you can show that's a violation of your constitutional rights. And once it's a violation, and the people will wake up. But one of the things in my 7 steps, I have a strategy I call the 7 steps for taking back our elections, is I tell people, look, you can have all the evidence in the world, but you're not going to win without a movement. And that's why calls like this are important. We're building a national movement, but we need to focus on the right things. Too many of us are doing the wrong things, and I call those hamster wheels. And what do I mean by wrong thing? I mean, am I Mr. Wise Man? I'm the only person who knows anything? Of course not. But too many people are doing things that have no net effect. For example, in Pennsylvania, since that came up, I was up in Mercer County recently. A patriot came up to me and he says, Dr. Frank, we cleaned our voter rolls. I removed 600 people from the voter rolls. I'm like, way to go. Good work. When did you do that? 3 months ago. Okay, well, let's download your rolls today. So we downloaded the rolls. Guess what? His voter rolls were the 600 people that were removed. They're already new people in, and they even had more people in the voter rolls than before he cleaned them. So all this work to clean voter rolls is the wrong thing for you to spending your time on. What you need to be doing is getting control, local control of your voter rolls so that this can't happen. Because it's like the starting point. It's the fuel for all the fraud. You can stuff as many ballots as you want, but you got to have names to assign to them. And that's what this is all about. So I could go on and on, but I knew I only had a few minutes today. So I'm trying to stay focused. So what I've been doing is trying to build infrastructure around the country. And that takes, I've learned it doesn't work by Zoom. You got to be in person. So we're building those groups. I'm recently on the board of Audit Vote PA in Pennsylvania. So we've been using it kind of as a prototype for around the country. We divided the state up into sections, and then we're building war councils in each of those sections. Let me tell you what I mean by a war council. So you have to come into this with the right mindset. Our country is at war. We're in a 5th generation war, as Michael General Flynn is always saying. In warfare, you don't fight warfare as a bunch of individuals. If we're at war and I pick up my gun and I run at the enemy, we lose. If we're in a war, we form a war council. We get the generals and the strategists and the intelligence and infrastructure, and we get that together. We make a plan, and then we implement the plan. So let's say we're in World War II. Are we going to attack Germany? Are we going to attack Berlin the first day? Of course not. That's too big of a jump. We want to get to Normandy, but to get to Normandy, we got to have infrastructure. We got to have planning. We got to have soldiers. We have to have ammunition. We have to have intelligence. We have to have strategy. We have to have all these different things.
Dr. Frank, 2 minutes, Dr. Frank.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Raj. So that's what we're doing. We're building war councils in each part of the country because the regions are different, and there are different election laws. There are different election strategies. There are nuances. Some places you have good sheriffs. Some places you don't. Some places you have lots of involvement of your citizens. Some places you don't. So there's different strategies, different places, just like if we were fighting a war, because guess what? We are fighting a war. So you got to get organized. There are too many people out there that are thinking that they're going to win in the courts. They're thinking they're going to win by cleaning the voter rolls. They're thinking they're winning by they think they can reform the system. No, you have to take back the system. It has to be under your eyeballs, not the state eyeballs. How about if I stop right there?
Excellent, Dr. Frank. Good, Steve.
Let them know where they can reach you, Dr. Frank.
Say that again.
Let them know how they can reach you.
Oh, my email, drdouglasgfrank@outlook.com. I'll type it in the text. Dr. Douglas, G like George, Frank@outlook.com. By the way, I'm going to be at CPAC next week with Mike. That's his big announcement of Lindell TV and all that stuff. I'm going to be there in his booth. So if anybody wants to come by and corner me and schedule me to come in, I don't charge. Hey, I see Mark Cook under me. If anybody wants to schedule, I'm available.
Very much. Mark Cook, you're up.